Good evening, everyone. My name is Helena Shoye, and I'm an RSTP trainer located in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And I'm here joined by my colleague, Betel Abraha, who's an RSTP trainer as well. And she's also an SSP coordinator. She's located in the GTA area. And we will be hosting this training session for you today. There is a lot of information that we're going to share, and which is the walkthrough demonstration for how to use the permanent residence portal for paid immigration representative. So this training session is being recorded, and we will also be providing micro-learning video clips on our YouTube channel for those of you who wants to refer back for a step-by-step guidance. There is also a handout which can be which you can find in the chat box, or you can also look on the handout and then you can download it. And so today, in today's information, we provide some additional information that we will briefly mention, but not go into details about it today. In this handout, you will find a list of terms and definitions as it relates to the online portal, a chart of PR portal user roles and permission, and there is also a copy of information on how to determine who should be the primary sponsor, which you would have learned about in the previous information session that we had mid-October. So I hope you have joined that, but if you haven't, you can find the recording in our YouTube channel. Since we are meeting today on a virtual platform, I would like to begin by acknowledging that each of us here today are located in various places across this nation we call Canada, and we are each residing on the traditional territories of many First Nations peoples. And I would like to specifically acknowledge that Toronto, the location for the RSTP main office, is situated on the lands of many First Nations peoples, including Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat people, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Belt, and Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. So we invite you to personally dedicate time to learn about, reflect on, acknowledge the history and land of many First Nations peoples where you reside, and to personally consider how you can each, in your own way, move forward in the spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So I will just talk about RSTP briefly. It's a national program. However, we do not provide training for the province of Quebec, which has its own immigration system and a different refugee sponsorship program. We are a program designed to support groups of 5 community sponsors and sponsorship agreement holders. We also support constituent groups and co-sponsors working with sponsorship agreement holders. We are funded by IRCC, and RSTP trainers are employed by Catholic Cross Cultural Services. As you can see, there are trainers located across Canada. You can visit our website to find a trainer in your region or near you. You can just go to the RSTP website, rstp.ca, under Contact Us. You will find a trainer near you. So what we do at RSTP is we provide information, training, resources for all aspects of private sponsorship process to sponsors and the general public who are interested in the PSR program. We do this by communicating updates and information sent by IRCC, and this is done via our website, the rstp.ca website, and through our 2 newsletters. The first is the bi-weekly RSTP Bulletin, which contains information on the PSR program and provides updates and clarifications on the requirements for refugee sponsorship. And secondly, the BVOR news provides information on the Blended Visa Office Referred Program. This shows refugees' profiles and answers BVOR-related FAQs. RSTP also responds to many emails and phone calls for inquiries about PSR program. You can get instant answer to your sponsorship questions by calling our 1-800 helpline. You can find our number on the slide, and you can call us between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We also have different online resources on our website, such as fact sheet, best practices manual, a minimum financial support calculator, and several training session videos. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We also offer different other services such as online e-training courses for those who want to expand their knowledge on the PSR program itself. We also offer in-person training workshops on different topics related to private sponsorship of refugees. So just contact your local RSTP trainer to find out when they are hosting an in-person training sessions, and you'll be able to join them. We also have monthly webinar series that we offer for groups of 5 and community sponsors. And periodically, we offer webinars on different topics related to the PSR program. And lastly, you'll be interested to know that currently your local RSTP trainer can review G5 or CS application before sponsors submit them to IRCC. This is to ensure that it is complete and it's filled out correctly. So this is our agenda for today. And as you can see, there is a lot to learn. We will begin by explaining the new terminology for the role of the primary sponsor that you need to become familiar with as it relates to the PSR online application submission, as well as the user role differences and the 2 different PR portal access points. We will follow with the instruction on how to initiate an application and invite group members as well as the principal applicant if desired. We will also take a look at where to upload the personal documentation needed for each of the invited group members. And then we will briefly show you the direct input online digital forms, as well as how to upload the required PDF forms, supporting documents, and additional forms needed for the private sponsorship application. We will conclude the information about the principal applicant declaration and what to do if the PA does not have to the PR portal. Keep in mind that during this training section, we will not be answering any case-specific questions or going in detail about the application forms themselves. There are specific webinars scheduled which you can register via the training calendar on the RSTP website that will explain the new forms and the changes on the application guides for groups of 5, community sponsored, and sponsorship agreement holders. So with that in mind, let's focus our attention on the permanent residence PR portal for submitting application for private sponsorship of refugees program. So the representatives permanent residence portal that you are currently using has to be expanded to now included the private sponsorship of refugees program application as of November 1st, 2023. There will be a grace period during the transition period from submitting application by email for this program to using the online submission portal only. So the grace period will be until December 31st, 2023. The benefits of using the portal is that the PSR application forms can be accessed, edited, and submitted directly online, and supporting documents will be uploaded directly to the portal. This digital intake method will also provide a stronger protection measures for the privacy of information being provided, and files will be created in the IRCC system much more efficiently so that PSR application can be actioned sooner. Immigration reps, such as lawyers or licensed consultants, can initiate and submit PSR application using the existing portal login on behalf of your clients who are groups of 5, community sponsors, and a sponsorship agreement holder that is paying you to submit application and action on their behalf with IRCC. So let's take a look at how immigration representative will access PSR application depending upon the different roles they may have when working on private sponsorship applications. So you will notice that in the handout that we have provided, there are some terms and definitions that are new for you as it relates to submitting PSR application via the PR portal. I won't go all over the terms since it is in the handout, but I do want to highlight a new term that we will be speaking about when using the PR portal for private sponsorship, and that is the term primary sponsors. So to start off, it's important to understand what we mean when we speak about the primary sponsor, because it refers to the user role they have as it relates to the use of an immigration rep. So in one scenario where the immigration rep is acting on behalf of the sponsorship group, the group member will need to identify who the designated primary sponsor will be to their paid representative. In this situation, the immigration rep will take a lead to initiate the application, complete all of the forms, and upload the documents on their behalf. And also, inviting the primary sponsor to the online application is a required step when initiating the application. This is so the primary sponsor will receive automated email related to the online application. However, they're not expected to engage with the PR portal at all if they choose not to. In another scenario, the immigration rep is acting on behalf of the principal applicant. So in this case, the primary sponsor will take a lead to initiate the application form from the sponsor PR portal sign-in, and then the immigration rep is invited by the primary sponsor to engage in completion of the principal applicant's forms and documents. So keep in mind, in this situation, the immigration rep will have access to upload the required personal forms and documents for the sponsors. They will not have access to upload required personal forms and documents for the sponsors. So let's take a closer look at the user role differences when a paid representative is acting on behalf of the sponsors. To start off with, an immigration lawyer or a licensed consultant is appointed as a representative for the sponsors. This means that you are taking on a functional role and permission within the portal that the primary sponsor would typically have. But the difference for you is that within the representative PR portal, you are required to invite primary sponsors to the application, and you cannot initiate the application without doing so. For a group 5, any of the group members can be identified as the primary sponsor. So input the name of the sponsor whom the group decides will take the lead in communicating with you. For community sponsorship group, it would be best practice for them to use a single designated email address that they set up for use with any of the PSR application submission. So for example, if the organization was called Lifeboat and they had a shared email address such as sponsors@lifeboat.org, that would be the same email address that should be used by you as their representative when you invite them to the application in the PR portal as the primary sponsor, and which will be used on the application and when communicating with RSTP in relation to all of the PSR applications. So keep in mind that if the private sponsors want ultimate control over the application and its submission and will only use your service to assist with completing the refugee portion of the application, then their primary sponsor would simply invite you as the immigration representative to an application which they themselves have initiated as a primary sponsor. Now let's take a look at what a paid representative responsibilities would be when acting on behalf of the sponsorship group rather than the principal applicant. So the rep would initiate an application and must invite the primary sponsor, can also invite, delete group members from the portal application, and inviting the PA is also an option. They can review forms for correctness, verify uploaded documents, submit the application, provide a copy of submitted application to the sponsors and the PA. So this is where you can download the forms and keep a copy. So in this user role, paid representatives can also see status of all portal application, whether it's in progress or submitted or returned, view, edit, and delete unsubmitted application in the portal, resend temporarily password for invited person who do not already have a PR portal user account. They can download the forms zip file as well, can also see group members' uploaded personal documents, could be ID or financial documents. Now let's see what the invited sponsor user role capabilities and restrictions are. So first off, although they are being invited to the online application, they do not have to engage with the PR portal at all. The primary sponsor does have to be added to the application, so they will receive the auto email for the PR portal application. However, you as their paid immigration rep, you can fill in the online form and upload any additional form and documents on their behalf. The only thing that cannot be done by the paid representative is to sign into the PA's consent and declaration. So now let's take a look at what invited group member can do and cannot. So what they can do is they can create a user account. They can see a listing of applications, which I will show you in the coming slide. View and edit the refugee forms, upload first personal ID and financial documents, upload sponsors forms and supporting documents, and sponsors cannot invite or delete group members, submit or delete applications, view or edit applications they are not invited to, access other group members' uploaded personal documents, could be ID or financial documents, and download the submitted application. So these are the things that sponsors won't be able to do. So as paid representative, it is critically important to consider what your role is when determining how you will access the application and what your responsibilities will be. If you are appointed as a representative for the principal applicant, you would sign in using the representative PR portal. But as we already mentioned, it will be the primary sponsor who will initiate the application, and you will receive an email inviting you to access the application. Once an immigration rep has been added to the application within the portal, they cannot be removed or changed. So sponsors would need to contact the RCC external to the portal if changes needed to be made. If the application has not yet been submitted, then the group could delete the initiated application in the portal and start all over again. If you are appointed as a representative for a sponsoring group in Canada, you still sign in using the representative PR portal. However, you will be responsible for initiating the application, and you will need to invite the primary sponsor to the application. Some immigration representative may also serve in other roles working on PSR application other than a paid lawyer or consultant. So for example, some of you may also work for or a volunteer with a SA or a sponsorship agreement holders. Keep in mind that when you are wearing that particular hat, you will need to log in into the regular PR portal that is used by private sponsors. From this PR portal, in your role as a staff person or a volunteer for the SA, you can initiate and submit application under the SA primary sponsor user account access. You should not use the Immigration Rep PR portal when submitting application under your organization's SA agreement. Keep in mind that the representative portal access and the sponsor's PR portal navigation looks nearly identical. So when you are working on the application, it's important to use separate and different email address depending on which hat you're wearing. So if you are submitting applications under the SA agreement, you will need to use email address provided for the SA main contact on file with RSTP. When you are submitting application in your role as a paid immigration consultant, you will need to use different email address from the one that is issued for the SA PR portal account. This is because within the portal, you cannot change the email address that is associated with the PR portal user account. When a sponsor first creates a user account, they will need to provide a working email address which will be associated with the PR portal user account. For groups of 5, they will need to provide as a designated personal email address that the person intends to use for communicating with IRCC. So be sure this is an email address that they check regularly. And please note that once the PR portal user account has been created, the email address associated with this user account cannot be changed. For community sponsoring group, they may want to create a designated organizational email address that will be used for all communication with IRCC, which will also be associated with the organization's primary sponsor user account in the portal. Again, you cannot change the email address associated with this user account once it has been created. Whatever email a sponsor decides to use for their portal user account, this should be the same email address that they use to send correspondence to IRCC. Now let's take a look at how to initiate an application. This process is the same whether it's the primary sponsor who initiates the application or whether it is the immigration representative who initiates it. You will need to be logged into the PR portal to see this page. You will need to scroll down until you see this section here. The right side of the page can be disregarded since this function is intended for a person already in Canada who needs to apply to renew or to replace their permanent residence card, also for their permanent residence travel document. The left side of the page is where you have the choice to either start a new application or view existing applications. So just a reminder that only the primary sponsor or an immigration representative will click on Start New Application button, since they are the designated person who will initiate the application on behalf of the entire group. For all other group members who have been invited to join an online application, they will simply select View My Permanent Residence Applications button. So before we continue on to see how primary sponsors will initiate a new application, let's take a quick look at an example of what the listing of permanent residence application will look like for sponsors after the application has been created in the portal. As you can see, we have several applications listed in this example, and you should be aware of a few things when sponsors are accessing their own listing of applications. If the person is designated as a primary sponsor for a SA or a community sponsor, they will see a listing of all applications that have been initiated, as well as any other application they have been invited to that are based on the email address associated with that particular portal user account. So what this means for a sponsorship group who undertakes several applications each year, they may want to use just one primary sponsor user account if this is important for them to keep track of all application submissions in one place. If this is a sponsorship group member who has been invited to a single application, then they would only see that one application in their listing. However, if the person has been invited to multiple applications, then they would see all of the application they have been invited to, as long as the same email address was used for each application. And also, if they had provided different email address for some of the application that they were invited to and had created different portal user account for each one, then they would not see all of this application in one place. So let's take a look at the type of information that sponsors can expect to see in their own listing of applications. So the first column is where they will see the application name. This is a specific title which is chosen when the application is initiated. It will not be used for any other purpose other than to help them identify a particular application from within the listing. This is important for you to know as immigration reps who initiate application on behalf of sponsors. You should choose a name for the application that will help the sponsors to easily identify a particular application in their dashboard listing of application. So especially if they are submitting several applications with your assistance, you as immigration rep have the benefit of the application being listed in your dashboard according to the name of the client, but it is not displayed in the sponsors listing. So please understand that what you use as an application name will be what is displayed here for the sponsors. So a simple naming convention you may wish to use is to start with the family name of the principal applicant in all capital letters, followed by their given name and their date of birth. For community sponsorship groups who work with co-sponsors, you may want to include the name of the co-sponsor as well. In the second column of the sponsors dashboard listing, you will see the program identifier, which in this case of PSR applications, it will always show you as refugees. However, if sponsors had used the PR portal user account to create family class application, this would also show up in their listing of application with the category of family displayed. The next is category column, which will show sponsors the type of application, such as SO5, community sponsor, and the next column will show the date application was submitted, and the status column will show the progress of the application within the portal. So for example, application that has been initiated and still being edited will show as a yellow in progress bar, and an application that has been submitted to IRCC will appear as a green submitted bar. Application which have been returned will have a red return bar showing. Under the action column, sponsors will click on the view button to open the application. And next to that is the delete button. So if the person initiated the application as a primary sponsor, when they select delete, it deletes everything for that application. If, however, they are invited group members, they cannot delete the application. If the invited person wants to be removed from the application, the primary sponsor or you as the paid immigration representative who initiated the application will need to do that. Now let's go back to the home page to see how an application is initiated in the portal. So an application can be initiated from within the PR portal homepage by the primary sponsor, or if you are an appointed rep for the sponsors, from within the representative's PR portal. So to start, you could click on the menu option at the top of the page here to start a new application, or scroll down to this section of the home page and click the Start New Application button here. Before the application can be generated by the system, you must identify the type of application you wish to create. As you are all aware, this portal is used for several immigration streams. So we will have to identify that is for private sponsorship and which type of sponsorship group, and that the correct application form are generated by the system. So click on the first drop-down box arrow and select refugees, and then click on the next drop-down box arrow to select private sponsorship of refugees program. And next you will need to choose the group type. So for this demonstration, we will select a group of 5. And then at this point, if you are the primary sponsor initiating the application, you would enter the application title name. Remember, this is what will show on the sponsor's listing of application. So a name should be used that can easily be identified because it cannot be changed after the application has been created. For immigration reps, you will name the application on the next screen. Once the display field have been filled, click Continue button. Here is where the primary sponsor will insert their name for the application that they are initiating. Remember, any one of the group of 5 members can be designated to be the primary sponsor. For those groups who choose to initiate the applications themselves, it would be beneficial if the group member chooses the person who knows how to use computers and is comfortable with reviewing all of the forms and documents before submitting them. Keep in mind that the primary sponsor information cannot be changed after the application has been initiated. When completing this online form, whenever there is a red asterisk, a response is necessary. So the primary sponsor in this case would enter their family name and their given name, For immigration reps who are initiating the application on this page, you will be required to provide the name of their designated primary sponsor and additionally their email address and the application name on this page within the representatives portal. Keep in mind that the primary sponsor information entered here cannot be changed after the application has been initiated. When the continue button is selected, you see a success notification pop up letting you know that the application has been created. At this point, you could log out of the portal if you want to and resume working on it at another time. To access the listing of your application, simply select View My Application from the menu item here. As you can see, the application is now visible here in the primary sponsors listing. And for immigration consultants who initiated an application, it would look like this in your dashboard listing. You will not see the name in the client column until that information is entered when you finish the profile information for the principal applicant. So to resume working on the application again, as you are already familiar with, you simply click on View button here. After the application has been initiated, you will be directed to the principal applicant's profile page. Alternatively, you may wish to invite other group members to this application first. If you do not yet have the refugees information, simply click on the menu item here to open the group members page. For groups of 5, there will be a notification symbol displayed, like this one, when there are still group members who have not yet been invited. In this case, we will go ahead and enter the information that is required for the PA, such as the preferred language of correspondence, as well as their full name and date of birth. Next will be the mailing address information and an option to select whether or not their residential address is the same as their mailing address. If it's not, then you would need to insert information for the current place they are residing. Next, you will click on the button to add a dependent of the PA if applicable. An input box will open up for you to complete. Once you have entered the information, Save Details button will be active. And then you will click on it to save the information. And you can now see that a dependent has been added. You can also go back and edit information if needed, or you can delete the added dependent, or you could go on to add another dependent if you wish, or come back to add more dependent at another time. When you are finished, click Save and Continue. Now let's take a look at how to invite people to the application. We will begin by adding additional sponsor. Remember, the primary sponsor is the only one who can add the other signatories to the application, unless, of course, the application has been initiated by you. As an immigration rep, then you would invite other group members on behalf of the primary sponsor. So for group of 5, you must invite a minimum of 4 or more group members. If you are working with a community sponsor that also has a co-sponsor, you can invite them as a group member here. Remember, when you add a person as a group member, they can fill out the forms and upload documents, but they cannot have the ability to submit the application. Only the primary sponsor or their representative who initiated the application does. So click on Invite Additional Sponsor button here, and this will open up a section where you will insert their information. Then now you can see that the person who have been invited is now included here. Each invited person information will appear as a separate block of information. For groups of 5, there will be a warning message like this. There are not 4 or more additional group members invited. So it will give you that warning sign down there. And once you have invited at least 4 or other members, this warning message will disappear. If you need to remove a group member, it can be done here, but only before the application has been submitted. After submission, you would need to contact RSTP if a group member needs to be replaced. You also have the ability to resend temporary password to an invited member. If they do not open the email that they had received within 30 days of being invited, the temporary password will expire after 30 days. Invited member will only be able to click on the more details button for their own block of information. They cannot access the protected details for other group members. This protected section is where any document which contains sensitive information are to be uploaded. Only the invited person and the person who initiated the application will be able to access and view documents which have been uploaded here. As you can see, for invited group members, there are several documents to be uploaded in this section. You are advised to closely follow the IMM 2200 guide for groups of 5 and the IMM 2201 guide if you are assisting community sponsors to ensure that the correct required documents are uploaded here. And even if you see the particular item list does not have a red asterisk within the portal, it still may be required for some of the group members. So all group members will need to upload their sponsors assessment, proof of status, and their criminal record check or their police check. So simply click on the upload button next to an identified item in this listing that you are going to provide a document for. There are other items that may need to be uploaded here which do not have the red asterisks next to the naming item. So those are not like documents that are required, but if you want to, you can upload them. So for example, for an invited group member that is contributing funds from their personal source of income, a financial profile will need to be uploaded. Same goes for uploading the CRA Notice of Assessment document. Each person providing funds from their personal income will need to upload their Notice of Assessment document under the Proof of Funds category here. Yet for group members who are not providing funds for the sponsorship, they do not have to upload a financial profile or provide proof of funds from their personal income. When it comes to uploading the proof of funds, such as bank documents for funds held in trust, detail of deposit, signed or stamped letter from the bank, or statement from fundraising activities, IRCC requests that these documents be uploaded in the primary sponsor details section under the other option for uploading. So for each uploaded document, there is a specific naming convention that should be used, and there are other file preparation requirements that you will need to follow before uploading documents to the portal, which we will take a look at this naming conventions in the next slide, which my colleague Betel will take over from here.
Good evening, everyone. When we take a closer look at the file preparation requirements, which include unacceptable file types, file size, file naming, and acceptable characters to use when naming files. The types of files that are acceptable for uploading are PDF files or image files such as JPG, JPEG, or PNG, or it could be as well document file type such as doc or docs. The maximum size of file can be is for MB. There will be a warning messages in the portal if your file size is too big. If you need to reduce a file size, you can use a free online website that is called ilovepdf.com or a similar online tool. When you're trying to upload images, the smallest resolution size should be 420 times 540 pixels. And for file naming, you must include the last name followed by a dash and then the first name. That should be followed by a dash, and then the document type, it is followed by a dash and then an item number if you are uploading multiple files using the same document type name. Rocco has confirmed, however, that they would prefer PDFs where the multiple files are merged into one document rather than uploading another separate PDF files for each document of the same type. And we'll explain this further in the next slides that we are having today. The allowable characters that can be used when typing your file name are upper and lowercase letters, numbers, dashes, underscores, or a dot. So for Francophones, this is particularly important because you cannot use French keyboard letters that have accents, even when it's for a person's name. All right, so when we take a look at a case example based on this principal applicant, their spouse and a child. For example, if the PA has some documents to include for proof of education, such as, let's say, diploma and death certificate, this document should be saved as a separate files and using the file names that are the same, except they include a sequential number at the end. Or if you are able to merge these documents into a PDF file that is less than 4 MB in size, then roll call would prefer that. When uploading photos for this family, each photo can be uploaded separately, where the file name must include the name of the person in that photo. So for example, this is how each of the photos files would be named for the PA, the spouse, and the dependent child that we are here as an example. However, again, I would like to mention, if you prefer, you may merge all of the photos into one PDF file that is less than 4 MB and simply use the PA's name along with the file name of photos. When it comes to file naming for specific forms and supporting documents, be sure you are using the appropriate names based on the document being uploaded. So for the PA Schedule 2, you would include the name of the PA and the title of the form. The same goes for the RSD document, use the PA's name and include RSD for the title. That goes same for the PA declaration. If you are uploading the undertaking document, you can use the PA's name followed by undertaking as shown in the example here. And when you are uploading any specific forms or documents for the individual sponsors, you must include the individual sponsor's name as well as what the document type it is. For example, the financial profile should be named according to the sponsor it belongs to, as in this example here, as you can see it in the screen. The same goes for the sponsor assessment forms or for any other ID documents for proving a sponsor's Canadian status. Once you have invited the group members, if you scroll down the page, you have the option to invite the principal applicant. Keep in mind here that when a principal applicant is invited to the application, they can be removed from within the portal once this has been done. Of course, if the refugee doesn't have any sufficient language skills or internet access, they do not have to be invited at all to the online application. So this is a very important one to note. And you can select no here, but you will need to upload a PDF version of the refugee digitally signed declaration form. For primary sponsors who have initiated the application, they can as well invite a paid or unpaid representative who would act on their behalf of the principal applicant to assist with completing just their forms and document uploads. When sponsors invite an immigration representative who will act on behalf of the principal applicant with IRCC, they would fill in the name and the email address, and they are required to identify whether that person is registered representatives, are paid representatives, and such as immigration lawyers or licensed consultants. If the intended representative is not registered, then they are considered to be unpaid representatives. Regardless of being paid or unpaid representatives, they will need still to upload the use of representative forms, which authorizes them to act on behalf of the PA. And here we need to keep in mind that once a representative has been invited, they cannot be removed from the application. You will need to contact IRCC by email, external to the portal, if there will be any changes to the representative. And when sponsors select the no option here, meaning the representative is not being paid to act on the PA's behalf with IRCC, such as the family member in Canada who is not a party to the sponsor, that person would be sent an invitation to create a user account in the regular PR portal, and they would have the same level of permissions to access the online application as the PA would have had. So this means that the unpaid representative can edit and still view their refugee forms, and they can as well also upload any supporting documents and forms on behalf of the refugee. And here, if sponsors select yes, that the representative is registered, then you ask the paid representative will be sent an invitation with a link to sign into your representative PR portal to access the PS online application. In the situation, you will not see any of the group members who did not initiate the application. So when a lawyer or licensed consultant first creates their user account in the representative's PR portal, you are required to provide your membership ID, the name of your firm or a company, as well as the governing body of your profession. Now we are going to take a look at how to access the application forms and where to upload the sponsorship documents. The primary sponsor, as well as any other invited persons, can access the application to complete the online forms and upload any required documents. To access this page, you would click on the application menu item here on the top right. On the left side, you will see the quick navigation menu for this particular web page. There are simply quick links to jump to a particular section of this page. If this is your first time viewing this page, however, please take the time to scroll down manually and read the information that is being provided for you. In particular, here, you will want to scroll to the before you start section where there are links for you to access the relevant guidances and checklists which you will need to refer to when completing the application forms. And as you can see in these instructions, you will not need to select and complete every single form that is available within this page. As we mentioned earlier, where my colleague Helena was mentioning it, this portal is used by other immigration stream applicants, so not all of the forms are going to be used for PSR application submissions. This is why it's very important for us to follow the guides and document checklists which are linked here to ensure you are including the correct terms. Now let's click on this quick menu button to jump to the IMM 0008 section. In this section of the page, you can see that the generic application form falls under the heading Digital Forms for a group of 5. If you had selected the option to initiate the CS group application, it will display digital forms for community sponsors. In this initial release of the PR portal for PSR applications, only the PS generic application and Schedule A are available to complete online form within the portal. And below that section, you will be able to see the PDF forms section, which contains the required undertaking form for your particular sponsorship group type, as well as the refugee Schedule 2 form. The sponsors forms and the Schedule 2 can be downloaded from the provided links below the form number, and the forms are to be completed offline. This means that you do not need to be logged into any portal to complete them. So when these PDF forms have been completed and signed, and the file has been saved according to the correct size and naming convention that I was showing in the previous slides, then you simply click on this button to upload the undertaking forms where it's showing upload, and click here to upload the PS schedule. If there are any dependents which are over 18, you will need to click this button here again to upload their schedule too as well. Now we are going to take a look at the online version of the generic application. So here you will first see some information to read before you proceed to the form, and you have to be sure to click on the link for the instruction guide, which will guide you in how to complete this form. You should also have copies of all the supporting documents for the refugee family. For example, passports or any national identity documents or the RSTP document if they have them, because you will need to fill in their personal information based on these documents. Then you need to click on the continue button. On the left side is a new menu tree which will show you which section of the online generic application you are on. You will not be able to navigate to the next section until all of the required fields have been entered and saved. On the section of the form, you will notice that the online version does not indicate that this particular question is a required field, and this does not mean you can leave it blank. But remember, the generic application form is used by several other immigration streams, and some of them do not have to complete this field. But for the PSR application or applicants, it must be filled out or it will be returned by IRCC to you. And you should always follow the guide when you are completing this form so you won't omit any fields that are required for PSR applications. When you have entered in any fields with the red asterisk, as you can see here in the screen, you can click on the Save and Continue button to proceed. You can certainly go back in again at a later time to fill in the remaining fields that are necessary for the PSR application. So when you have navigated through each of these sections and completed all of the fields with the red asterisk, you will see a green check mark next to each menu item. This does not mean that you have filled in all of the required information within each of the sections. This simply means that the field with the red asterisk have been entered and saved. When you get to the dependent section, it is important to read the information that is being displayed here. In particular, you will need to click on the link here to open the PS profile page if you have not yet added their spouse or partner or dependents to the application. And you must do this first before moving on to complete the personal details for each dependent, which will be listed here after they have been added to the PS profile page. And once you have completed all of the personal details for each dependent, a completed status will be displayed. So as you can see here on the screen, once you complete everything, it will show you complete. And then the button here will become visible for you to click on, which will take you back to the main navigation page for the application. You will now see a green check mark next to the IMM 0008 menu item. And here we need to keep in mind that this is not an indication that you have filled in all of the necessary information for a PSR application. It's only an indication that the fields within the red asterisk have been completed for the generic application. So now let's take a quick look at the additional application forms section. You will have the option here to search for and add any additional forms here in this box. Most of the forms in this drop-down list are for other immigration streams. The ones that are relevant to the PSR program application are the optional forms such as the use of a representative and appointment of a representative in the community of settlement. And here there is also a parental consent declaration form that could be used for cases where like the PA is divorced or wants to bring their child to live in Canada. And let's move to the supporting documents section now. Since this is a group of 5 applications, the 2 documents that have to be uploaded here are the photos and the refugee status determination document for community sponsors. These 2 documents will also be listed here. The refugee applicants may have additional supporting documentation to include with the application. You can search for the document type here, and if you want to quickly locate a particular title, you can always type the first letter of the title in the search field. I have pre-populated this application with various document titles that may be used for the PS additional supporting documents. As I scroll down, you can see that there are quite a few that you can choose from. And when searching through the available document titles within the drop-down list, you need to be aware that many of the options available are only to be used for other immigration streams. So not everything is related to PSR. In particular, you should not use the title option called Translations and Affidavits for PSR applications. Instead, you are expected to include the translation in the same PDF file as the original document. So for example, if the PA has a police report to upload, you would select the title option called Police Report and then upload a PDF document that includes both the report and the translation together in that one file. And the file naming convention for this PDF document would need to have the PS family name, a dash, the PS given name, and another dash followed by the title, and then police report. Now let's go to the last section, the principal applicant's declaration. If the principal applicant was not invited to the application previously, as we mentioned, you will need to download a PDF version of the consents and the declarations form for the PA to sign. This PDF version can be handwritten signature and scanned for uploading to the portal, or alternatively, digital signature can be inserted into the form. A digital signature is when the name is typed into the signature field by the PA, or when they choose to insert an image of their signature into the signature line of this PDF version of the declaration. And if you do not see the link here to download the form and the upload button is grayed out, this is a good indication that you left the toggle option on yes instead of no within the group members page. So click here to access the manage group members page. Toggle this option to no, and then when you go back to the application, you should see the link to download the form and the upload button will be active. If, however, you had opted to invite the PA, when you return to the declaration section, there would be a view button for the primary sponsor to check if the PA's electronic signatures has been completed. Keep in mind here that only the refugee can complete and electronically sign their declaration. Sponsors or immigration representatives cannot sign on behalf of the PA. And when the refugee logs into their account, they will see a start button to access their consent and declaration form. And when this online version of the form opens, as you can see here in the screen, the principal applicant will read the information here and then click on their preferred response options to the questions. Then they will need to scroll down and continue to read all of the information in this declaration so that they understand what they are agreeing to. In particular, it is important to note here that when submitting an application via the portal, these consents and declarations that is being signed by the PA serves as the consent and declaration for both the MM008 form and also for the Schedule A forms, including those being submitted for family members who are over 18. In order to give their consent, the PA will need to electronically sign the declaration page by typing in their full name into the field here, and then they would scroll down where they would see that the blue button is now active, which they can now click on to continue. After the refugee declaration is finished, you can scroll down to see where the application submission button is located. As you can see, the button is grayed out because we haven't yet finished everything that needs to be done. Below the button, you can see here warning messages which will indicate what the sponsor needs to complete before the application can be submitted. And you need to note here that the button may also be grayed out if you are not the primary sponsor. Remember that only the primary sponsor or a paid immigrant representative for the sponsors may submit completed applications. And before they do so, the primary sponsor or their appointed representative will need to review the whole application again to ensure nothing is missing, paying particular attention to ensure that all required information has been included in the online digital forms, as well as reviewing all of the uploaded forms and documents to verify the application is complete. PSR applications can disregard the point here to include proof you paid your fees. This is a reminder for other immigration streams as well. PSR applications do not have a fee. Once every warning message has been addressed, the confirm and submit button will become active. And if the primary sponsor is satisfied that everything is in order, they can click the button to submit the application to RCC. And once the application has been submitted, it can no longer be edited within the portal. An exception to this restriction, however, will occur when RCC finds that the application is incomplete. In this case, ROCO will send an email externally to the primary sponsor with an explanation of what is missing. The application will become unlocked again in the portal, but only for the primary sponsor or their paid representatives to make necessary corrections. The PA will need to re-sign their declaration if the changes required are related to that portion of the application. And keep in mind here that there is no longer going to be a fixed period of time by which you will need to resubmit the application via the portal. In the past, it used to be like specific days, but there will not be any specific or fixed period of time with this portal. This is because the processing time will not begin until a complete application is received by ROCO. So if you wait 30 days to resubmit the correction or the corrected application, Then the processing date time. Stamp for placing the application in the queue for processing will not be until the later time frame. The application submission date will be according to the most recent submission date. It will not be backtracked to the date of the first submission. Now let's take a look at where or when you can expect to receive an automated email. The PR portal would send out automated emails following certain user actions. The first auto email would be sent out to the person who initiated an application, or so, for example, the primary sponsor. And there will be the only one to receive this notification information informing them that the application has been started in the portal. If the principal applicant has been invited to the online application, they will receive an email notification with a unique link inviting them to log into the portal. The same goes for other sponsorship group members. They will each receive an automated email with a unique link to log into the portal. If there is an immigration rep for the principal applicant, so for example here an unpaid representative, they will also need to be invited and will receive an email notification with a unique link to log into the portal. If, however, it's a paid immigration representative who has initiated the application as a representative of the sponsorship group, then they are required to invite the primary sponsor when they initiate the application, so the sponsor will get an invitation notifying them they have been added to the application. And in this case, the primary sponsor has the option to access the portal to view or edit the application. This is not necessary. However, they may just want to leave it up to their paid representatives to solidly access the portal to complete the application on their behalf. The key reason the sponsor is being invited to the application is so that they will receive the auto email notifications from the portal. And when a group member is being removed, the primary sponsor or paid representative for the group and all invited persons are notified. And when an application has been submitted, the primary sponsor or the paid representative for the group and all invited persons are notified as well. When an application is returned, only the primary sponsor or paid rep for the group will be notified. And this is because they will need to make the corrections and they need to ensure that the declaration is signed again once the issue is being rectified. You need to note that once the application has been screened by an officer, this is deemed complete. An acknowledgement of receipt email notification will be sent externally from the portal, and it will come from the ROCO email account and will include the G number. All other correspondence after this point will be done external to the portal. So this means that the process for sending or receiving updates on the application will remain the same as before the portal was launched. So what cannot be submitted to IRCC via the PR portal? The one-year window application. You will submit this via email as per the current process. There will be no changes. BVR applications, you will submit this via email as per the current process. For just applications, SAS will still submit this via email as per the current process. And when a new dependent needs to be added after the application has been submitted to IRCC, we will still submit this via email as per the current process. And for any other updates on the sponsorship, sponsors should follow the current process, which is to submit changes via the IRCC web form. There are a few questions that may have come to your mind as you are seeing this or as you are hearing about this. For you regarding this new online portal submission method, you may be wondering, how do I access the portal, or what equipment do I need? Any computer, tablet, or mobile device can be used. You just need an internet connection and a web browser such as Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, or it could be Mozilla Firefox, or it could be as well an Apple Safari. And you might be wondering how sponsors will submit applications if they don't have the technical knowledge or skills to even be able to use computers. Here, IRCC as well recognizes that the PR portal may present an accessibility barrier for some clients So applications submitted by email will still be accepted. Keep in mind here, however, that mailed applications will take longer because they are still need to be digitalized, but they are going to be still acceptable. You may be wondering how to get information or help on how to use the portal. And here I want to mention that each of the current guides to private sponsorship have been updated to include instructions for submitting application online. You can also request help through the IRCC web form if you are experiencing any technical difficulties with the PR portal website. And RSTP will continue to offer additional training webinars on the digital portal so you can learn how to submit an application package using the portal. And RSTP will be also posting demonstrational videos on YouTube, which will as well address any frequently asked questions about using the portal. There will also be a list of frequent asked questions FAQs posted on the RSTP website. We have a helpline of RSTP and the toll-free line. It works from Monday to Friday every time from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, to include all the time differences that are in all the provinces. And then you can always call or email us. So I would like you all to feel free to contact our helpline or any of your local RSTP trainers in your provinces. This brings us to the end of the presentation. I would love to thank all of you for participating, and have a good night, everyone. Thank you for coming.